I'm just going to play them up and talk about it. Why not? I think the slider in should be silenced here, since they're not really mapped to anything. And the hit sounds are quite loud. The hit normal or whatever it is. And they overpower it. And why isn't this mapped? This section should be mapped. I'm really not a fan of having stacks like this, but not comboing under the stack. I think that's just my personal taste though. Because I think in a 1-1 beat gap like this, you should have a combo. I do combo all the time. I think you just think that I do my mapping to make it more consistent. With the hit sound samples here. Switches from custom 2 to custom 1. And custom 2 and custom 1 have a different hit normal, so it sounds really weird. I don't like how this sound here skipped over, considering the same instrument was mapped in the parts before. Actually no, it was a different instrument that was mapped, but it sounds like a bongo or something, but the instrument that's on here falls on these circles as well, so I think that's kind of strange. And considering that this slider and isn't really as important as any of the other sounds you've skipped over, maybe something like a half a beat reverse slider would be better. Yeah, I think skipping over this sound on this beat is a mistake. I mean, even if it was intentional, I don't think you should do that. Yeah, I don't like this slider. It doesn't look, it looks way too structured. And really sharp. Like, you use curved sliders and simple sliders with just ROM red anchor. And this is just like all parallel, like red anchors and stuff. I just think it doesn't look nice. I don't like skipping over this sound either. Since this is like actually where the guitar starts. I think in general, the backing on the guitar which changes pitch could be represented in your map a lot better. It just seems completely ignored. Like, something interesting, you could represent that changing pitch really interestingly. Like, change from clockwise to counterclockwise every time it changes pitch, since it's quite long. It's like once a measure. Like you could have a new combo and emphasize the new combo every time it changes on the red ticks and change flow or something. And I just think you'll be able to represent the song a lot better. Because here you're kind of ignoring a lot about the song and trying to focus. And I think you're focusing on something which isn't really what you should be focusing on. Because it's not really the standout thing in the song. And it's barely even noticeable when you're trying to follow it. Like, I'm only looking at it in the editor, and it's kind of hard to notice what you're following in the map. And this slider pattern here, like, you're ignoring a lot. No, you're mapping a lot, but you're ignoring a lot of the aspects of the song. But then it suddenly gets toned down with some one beat rhythm. It's quite weird. This change in sample set again's quite strange. The spacing in this section is really huge. I didn't you say that was a thing that was bad about Shiro's map? That even in a calm section, you're using quite large jumps. And this is quite high BPM, so it's really exaggerated when you do something like that. Like, you have pretty much a screen jump here, kind of. And this is at like 220 BPM, 230 BPM. You really need to keep stuff like that in mind. Like, the circles here, that's snapped at like 4.13. In my opinion, the most you should get snap in this calm section. And this is after an intense section as well. It's like 2 times. A jump like that should be what's normal in this section. Not a jump like that. And you might have put a large jump there to emphasize the lyric, but that's overemphasization. That's way too much spacing, just for a small part of the song. And here you're using stacks. I mean, stacks are fine, but it just goes to show how inconsistent this map is when it comes to spacing. Compare this pattern, 1, 2 stacks and sliders, to screen jumps. I just think that's too much. I get this here. It's like on the 4th measure emphasis. Makes sense. Might be still a bit too big, but it would make sense to have larger space in here. But then you just numb it by doing large spacing in nothing again. Yeah, go through this map. Check your sample set, hit normals and stuff. Because they change quite a lot for no reason. I'm not going to mention that again. And here again you can hear the guitar in the background. That's just, doesn't really take any aspect, you could put elements in your map which represent it. I always said I was going to mod this after you finished it. Oops. I just like upload this video mod. Easy kudosu. Is there any structure behind these jumps? They seem random. Not only the placement compared to other objects, it seems quite clustered, but also when you change from linear to sharp, and like this is all linear, this is all sharp, this is all sharp, and then you have a stack here that you've not used in this section yet. Of course you can video mod, why can't you? Who says mods have to be text? I don't think that's a rule. Like, I know people have done VC mods and it's been allowed. Like, you use the stack here and you've not used a stack at any point in this section. So just a sudden stop of momentum is really strange. I think you should put a break here. It seems like overmap. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong term. There are actually sounds on the objects, but I don't think you should map the sounds because there's like, the music stops here. So you could have like a stack from 2 to 1. No, map this sound, but I don't think you should. Yeah, you're using filler rhythm a lot, I've noticed that. But I think you need to break it sometimes to properly represent the music. Filler rhythm's good, unless your whole map is filler rhythm, and then you've got no contrast. You should really break up some of the long strings of notes, but only break it up when the music supports it. But when you do it so much, it just seems like spam. To a point it almost seems lazy to constantly have half beats between objects. Almost as if the only thing you need to get right is the spacing. And you're not really thinking about the rhythm much. Yeah, I think Snow Nino's a bad mapper, so that's a bad example. Well, not a bad mapper, but not a good mapper. is the first triple you've put in the map. Oh, Snow Nino's a good bad example of filler. Alright, yeah, you're right. I thought you were trying to tell me a good example. I was thinking there's no way you think that. Yeah. I'm pretty sure this is the first triple you've used. And you're 1 minute 48 into the map. It looks really out of place at first. I think you need to use more triples in the earlier parts, or introduce the triples when it drops, like in the Kai. Because that's when people will really be expecting increases in difficulty. Why are these maps so differently? You have the Pathway, that's quite low SV, isn't it? It seems like low SV. In the over intense section, use times 1 SV. I think you should up it up to 1 SV here as well, since it's mapped at the same SV as the cam section after you dropped it. It's not about how good it plays, it's about how good it represents the song. And I think filler rhythm like that represents it really poorly. I think these back and forth stack jumps are quite boring. Like in the second half, you mapped quite interesting flow patterns, and it just completely changed even though you're mapping, well, the same section. And you just completely went from back and forth stack to sharp angle flow. So I think you should have used sharp angle flow in the first half, or the back and forth stack style in the second half, and not change it. And this is a stacking error here, since the two stacked under the slider, and then the one after it isn't stacked under the slider because it's past the timeline. So you need to fix that. Why is this mapped with half beat slider and then the circle, but this is mapped with just a 1 beat slider, even though it's the same thing? I think the 1 beat slider fits better. Since 1 isn't really on an important sound, it would be better for it to be on a slider end. But if you do that, you should always map the slider end on the beat if you want to do that, since it's quite a strange thing to do in a normal map. Like pretty much every new combo you've got here, I think should be mapped to a slider end, if you want to map it like this one, which fits really well. Obviously, it doesn't need to be mapped to a 1-beat slider, and you could change it up and map it to a half a beat slider, and when you want the build up to get more intense. What's this slider and map to? Oh, is Mender here? Don't look. I'm going to upload this mod. Ruins the point if you watch it now, because then you'll only see half the mod. I don't get this pattern. The switch between sharp angles and linear. Just seems awkward to play at this BPM. And doesn't really represent anything in the song. Oh, that kai's really nice. I really like that. I've got nothing to say about it. It looks like you spent a really long time mapping this and getting it right. I really like this pattern of coming back on itself. I mean, it could blanket. I'm not going to do a blanket mod though. I think pretty much all of your SR comes from these jump patterns. 17 note 230 BPM single taps. I think you could break it up. Like, even if you just put like a half a beat slider here, it would make the pattern a lot easier to play, because it would give players at least a chance to recover for quite the large spacing for the last 8 notes. Since Sean needs to be played like hold reverse sliders, having this much movement seems strange because they look really similar to the half beat sliders. And I always find this with maps with 1/2 and 1/3 sliders, that they look really similar, even though you want them to play differently. So you could do something like decrease the SV here to 0.75 or something. So it looks more obviously like just a hold reverse slider. And then it makes it easier to understand that if it's a hold reverse slider, it probably has more than one reverse. This looks really horrible. It's like it snaps back and the slider tick is there. So if you only just catch the slider, then you might end up breaking on the slider tick if you have too much movement. It's just something to consider. Like, you could just rotate this slider and have it so it flows into it better. like that. I mean, not that positioning, but if it flowed into the slider. That's only a minor thing though. It'd be fine if you kept it like this. And you could slider these slider ends. Hit sounds on these slider ends are quite obvious. So you could silence them if you really want to keep this slider pattern. But I think something like a reverse will be better. Like this. Since the rhythm isn't actually that complicated, is it? It's a nice pattern though. So if you did want to keep that, just silence the slider ends. It does not flow into the slider. It might have the same counterclockwise flow, but the position of the slider head is like way too at a sharp angle for it to flow properly and play like that. That does not flow. That goes back on itself. It might still be going clockwise, but that is not what I'd call flow, going like that. Yeah, I'm only saying it's a minor thing. You could just rotate the slider and it'll be alright. It's just the sharp body, like you say, that I think makes it seem like that. Again, you could represent the backing guitar. I'm pretty sure it does that in a lot of this song though. I just think it's something that you really shouldn't be ignoring. It would make your map a lot more interesting if you incorporated it. You don't even have to incorporate it with the rhythm, just movement. Like a change of flow for every new guitar would be a good way to represent it, and you don't need to change any spacing. You don't need to change any rhythm. It would just make the map feel a lot more like the song and not just ignoring some aspects. I think these stacks are quite strange as well. These kind of stacks. Like, you could have more movement and different positioning for them. That would be quite nice. And it would match up with what you did here. And here. And you did something similar earlier in the map, didn't you? I think you did. Yeah, here. Oh, they're not in line. Just, you've never stacked them, and then you started stacking them. I quite liked how they were organised, but not overlapping or anything. But then you just started stacking them. Nothing else to say about that section though, that I've not said already. About other sections. Why is this flow so awkward? The cam section. Something a lot simpler. Like that fits a lot better with lower spacing, easier to understand flow for a calm section. I think these 1-3 sliders should be in their own combo to make them relate to each other. Because right now, this new combo here and then no new combo here is quite strange. The similar slider should be comboed. So like this. And that is some huge diff spike. 230 BPM streams when you've done like one triple in the song so far. That's like, it was kind of funny to see that. I wasn't expecting that. It would be good mapping if your map supported it up to them. But you don't even introduce it with any 1-4 sliders or anything. You just go straight into the space 230 BPM streams. That's pretty much all I got to say.